Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if you think that Trump is going to go on to be victorious, which is what it looks like to me, and I think 64% is an underpricing at this point. There's a few quote unquote Trump trades that seem to be on. One is yen weakness. I mean, that one is clear as day, and that's going hand in hand with the dollar index. Oh, look, there's the dollar index up on the screen. You can see that is essentially been going on. I love it. I can see my chart right in front of it here. Since Trump really crossed over with Harris, about 3-4 weeks ago, that's when the probabilities went north of 50% for Trump, and it's never really looked back. Now, if you were to fade that, if you were to go the other way and say, you know what, 64% probability on this guy is incorrect, I think he's going to lose, then you might want to take the other side of those. That would be something like yen strength. And you could put that in an equity portfolio. For an American, for example, you would do it unhedged, as opposed to the way that we commonly do it with our main ETF here in the U.S. We hedge the yen away.
I want to run this idea by you, since you mentioned Gore Bush. This was back in 2000, probably the closest historical parallel we have to think about if this ends up being a contested election. A regular guest on the show, David Rosenberg, over the Rosenberg Research, just out with a note saying that, he thinks this election is going to be so bad, the contestation, it's going to be Gore Bush on steroids. And he thinks the playbook should be long gold, bonds, and the VIX, and short SPX and the U.S. dollar. What do you think as an equity guy?
Well, I'll tell you, long gold's an interesting one, because I think that there had just been a long period of time where people, when they wanted to purchase an asset class that was not the dollar, they were reflexively buying this new thing, whether it was Ethereum or Bitcoin or what have you. And I think that there's some love coming back to it now, and interest rate directionality is not really affecting the gold price as much as many of us would have suspected. The other one that you might want to get long is silver, because the gold silver ratio is so high, and so silver might even be what we call the poor man's gold, and that might be an angle for it. I mean, here's the reality. We don't know if it's going to be contested or not, but what we do know is what the tape is telling us. And what the tape is saying is, if Trump is victorious, that is a strong dollar tape. And if it's Harris, it's a weak dollar. So whatever you think is going to be the outcome, that's the way to play this. The market has the dollar index. You just flashed on the screen a few minutes ago. The dollar index has run in the month of October from like 100 to 104. And the reason is ostensibly the tariffs. 20% tariff on every country is basically being baked in real time. You look at something like the Mexican peso. The peso, like springtime, was at 17. The peso is now at 20. That is a pair that is doing essentially a lot of a reincarnation of what you started to see back in the Trump surprise of 2016. A lot of these pairs are moving accordingly. There's the peso chart. Same thing with the yen. You're thinking about yen. How much of it is the BOJ and the machinations of the BOJ as opposed to just the markets trying to price in the outcome of this election? The BOJ meeting, I don't think was anything that was going to be memorable in the grand scheme of things, going on pause a day or so ago. And so I think the big driver of all this is try to figure out who's going to win this one. I think it's going to be Trump. But I don't know if that thought process is worth anything more than 2 pennies.